All right, we are now in Burgundy and we're recording this session with winemaker Frédéric Barnier at Louis Jadot. And good morning to you, Frédéric, or good afternoon, good evening.
Yeah, it's the afternoon. So good evening for you, good afternoon for us.
But Burgundy is a really special place, full of special places, in fact. And when we selected this wine for the Stars of Pinot Noir, you could buy a wine that just says Burgundy on the label, and it could represent anywhere in Burgundy. But we chose a very special single vineyard, actually a vineyard inside of a vineyard, or a vineyard inside of an appellation. We're in Pernand, Vergelesses, which is very near Corton, right?
Right, it's just facing the hill of Corton. So I will show you that better on the map if if I do it well. Just here, just to show you. So here it's the Côte de Beaune map.
Mm-hmm.
We are here in Beaune, and here it's the hill of Corton. And the vineyard of Pernand Vergelesses is really facing the hill of Corton. So it's a quite classic east exposure on a fresh, I would say, valley, again, with some wind sometimes. So it's a fresh place, classic east exposure with some, most of time, very elegant wine.
Yeah, this is a little gem that I love inside of the Jadot portfolio. Burgundy is full of special places and special wines, and sometimes very dear prices. And here we've got a single vineyard from just a really quaint little exposition, and it's in kind of the shadow of the cross. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So it's a very classic wine we are producing since a long time. It belongs to the Jadot family since many decades. So it's yes, the Clos de la Croix de Pierre, and that's a cross in stone just on the middle of the vineyard. Very special area. So the name of the Premier Cru is Encara 2, but we call it a Clos de la Croix de Pierre, special place closed by some walls. We are producing there a very beautiful red. Again, it's a place quite fresh, so it makes a wine very approachable with a very good fruity nose, very delicate tannins. Not a huge wine in terms of structure, but always a very generous wine.
Yeah, it's a very friendly wine, both in price and in style, but also has quite a bit of nuance. And what is it about this place that you'll find in the glass, Frédéric? What do we see in the glass of this wine?
Well, again, it's full of fruits, very I would say primary fruit, fresh fruit, red fruit with some spicy flavors most of time, because again, it's a place where the ripeness is happening very slowly, so it helps for the complexity of the flavors. And on the palate, it's not, I would say, a rustic wine. It's not an earthy wine. It's a wine with a lot of softness, roundness on the palate. So it's again a wine to have a drink or to eat with it. So it's really comfortable to taste this wine. And as you said, it's also a good price. So it's still an approachable wine for many reasons in Burgundy. Facing the hill of Corton with its elegance, its beautiful view, but really a wine for generous. The generosity is really what you will find in your glass.
Now, tonight we're tasting the 17, and we are also going to have the 2019 on our website as well. As a tale of two vintages, 17 versus 19. How are they similar or different?
Very different. Briefly, 17 was a very generous vintage in terms of yield in Burgundy. A warm vintage, but not really a sunny vintage, because the skies Most of time was a little bit cloudy, not a lot of rain, but clearly we had a good ripeness, but not with these, I would say, sometimes sunny flavors. So it's ripe, but not overripe. 19, it's quite different. The yield was really low in 19, so we have produced half of what we have produced in 17, to give you an idea, divided by 2. And in terms of wine, you feel it very well in your glass. 19 has a density, has an intensity, has a level of alcohol which is quite higher compared to the 17 because it has been concentrated, especially at the end of the cycle. We had a very hot temperature end of August and beginning of September, which has really concentrated the grapes. So it's a vintage made with skins in 19. 17 was made with the juice. So in terms of texture, in terms of shape of wine on your palate, you will feel it very well. One is quite juicy, the 17 wine, a beautiful wine to have now. And 19 is really more dense and rich, probably made for more aging for the future.
Beautiful. Frédéric, you make basically two wines, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, but you make a number of different bottlings. How many different facings will you bottle?
Well, it's a good question. In fact, to be honest, I've never counted, so I have no idea, but probably around 100, 110, 20 different wines in Côte d'Or, depending the vintage. But of course, yes, it's a large family. I'm a lucky father of different cuvées, different appellations. But also, it's what is Burgundy. Burgundy, it's the diversity, it is the incredible richness. So we are nothing else as what Burgundy is. It is incredible diversity of wine, of terroir, of climat, right. And also now of vintages, because we spoke just before about two different vintages. The same place, the same vineyard is not producing exactly the same wine from a vintage to another vintage. But it's why people love Burgundy. It's because it has no end. It's a never-ending story. When you start to discover Burgundy, you start, but there is no end.
That's beautiful. And this site, just like many others, you make every bottle you can make, and it's still just a teeny amount of wine. I think Rachel told me approximately 8 cases of this wine come to California. What is our total Pernod Vergelesses Clos de la Croix production? Is it a couple hundred cases?
They confuse volume, but in fact we are producing many different wines, but each of it, as you said, is produced in a small quantity. So Pernand, Vergelesses, Clos de la Croix, Pierre for the red, les Heritiers Louis Jadot. So the plot where the wine is produced, it's 1 hectare 5. So on 17 it was around 30 casks, and in 19 it was 15 casks for the entire world. So of course, in fact, finally, each wine we are producing here in Beaune, in our winery, it's a very small production.
Yeah, and that's what's great about Jadot is the history and the vineyards that you get to shepherd are really important. And it's really a pleasure to have you on the Zoom, and thank you for being one of our stars of Pinot Noir.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Good to see you again.